have the vocation of marriage and family, your primary grace is your vocation of marriage and family.
Coming to Madonna House was unlike any other place in the world, primarily because I had the experience of meeting Christ through the community, not through some kind of private religious experience, but through the community itself and the richness of the community.
So it's the manual work, snow removal, painting, grass cutting, working with other staff and guests. I'm also in the maintenance department, which in large part has to do with preparing and providing firewood for the kitchen stoves or for heating our buildings.
When I am on the farm, I don't stop to be a priest and become a farmer. I am a priest on the farm serving. And the life of Madonna House is this gift that makes the connection. You don't try to make the connection, it's the life of Madonna House.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Priests always were welcomed to Madonna House. Even before we had a priest's house, a guest house, we made room for them. There was a place for them. There would be a bed here and a bed there, and priests were coming. Catherine always she had a ministry to priests. She mothered priests. She was like a spiritual mother.
I think God was shaping something different in the church, where men, women, and ordained priests, we live together in this very unusual combination.
Madonna House from the beginning was a lay community. It was lay people. And it was only in the early 50s, after about 15 years or so, that there came to be the conviction that the community needed to make promises of stability. But in the middle of that, this man named Father John Callahan came to give a week of summer school classes. And on day 2, he collapsed with exhaustion, and doctor's orders were that he could not leave. And by the time he was recovered, he had become convinced that his vocation was to join Madonna House. And then a couple years later, another priest came, and then another, and another. And suddenly there were these 5 priests who God sort of plucked from all over the place. And all of a sudden, Madonna House was laymen and laywomen and priests.
The associate program is a way in which priests who live in their own dioceses and have their own ministry maintain a more regular contact with us. They will come here for a period of time. Often a number of our associates who can will come back for their annual retreat, or at least to spend a few days with us every year.
It all started when this young Lebanese Melkite Eastern Rite priest named Joe Raya came here. He was a dynamic, charismatic man who later on became an archbishop in the Holy Land. But when he first came here, he was just Father Joe Raya, and he walked in the door and he saw this cross and he said, "I have dreamt about that cross all my life. Give it to me. I know I'm called to be a member of this community, but I'm a pastor down in Alabama and I can't leave my parish, my people." And so the most beautiful thing, Father John Callahan listened to all this, and then he took his cross off and put it on Father Raya's neck. And he says, "You're an associate member."
Father Joseph Raya comes to visit in the 1950s, and he becomes our first associate priest. And he and Eddie become very good friends. Eddie had been in a seminary when he was younger and then left. And now he and Catherine have taken a promise of chastity. And he is starting to ponder the question of becoming a priest. Is it possible? So Father Joseph Raya, good friend, says, Eddie, if I'm ever made a bishop, I'll ordain you. Well, he is made a bishop. And he calls Eddie up and says, I'm a bishop. I can ordain you in the Eastern Rite, in the Melkite Rite. What Bishop Raya said to Eddie was, you have such a love for God, and that's what a priest needs to be, is a lover of God.
Currently we have 18 priests who are full-time members of Madonna House. And I would say about half of them were already ordained priests and then joined Madonna House as priests. The other half joined Madonna House as laymen and were subsequently ordained priests.
So I've been here 28 years, half as a layman and half as a priest. So it was long after I had been working in this carpentry shop as a carpenter that they ended up sending me to the seminary. So I didn't come with a vocation to the priesthood, but the Lord offered me that, after being here a few years. I'm happy to be a priest, really grateful that God gave me this vocation.
Priests that come in from the outside and join the community, that's a different phenomenon than laymen from within the community being called by the community to become priests. They bring something unique back into the community by way of having been a layman and now being priest. And that's a beauty to behold.
If priests live too isolated, they kind of adopt this kind of a clerical mentality, like us and them. But here we find that that mentality is dissolved because there's so much mutual interaction, Do you think of yourself as one of the family?
I, Father Brian Christie, hereby promise, with the help of Our Lady, to live in poverty, chastity, and obedience for 2 years according to the Madonna House spirit and mandate.
We need healing, we need direction, we need to grow in faith, we need to grow up sometime. That would be more my case. So emotionally and psychologically, there are mothers here, there are fathers here, there are uncles and aunts here, grandparents, brothers, sisters.
I was a parish priest for 10 years, and I always found myself in the role of trying to call the people of my parish, the parishioners, to come higher in living the gospel. Whereas when I came to Madonna House, I found all these lay people who were living the gospel at a much deeper level than I ever was.
Because Catherine had a special love for priests, the community has carried on that tradition of welcoming priests and loving them to be holier priests and to be priests after the heart of the Lord.
Here at Madonna House, lay people have a great love for the priest, and so we're often asked to give the sacraments, counsel, bless. So that's a very life-giving thing. To have people who believe in the sacredness of the priesthood asking you to use the gifts that you have.